Good evening and welcome to this February 9th Zoom meeting of the West Harbour Community Board. Warm welcome to Stephen McKnight, who's come to our public forum. Also, Paul Hayton for keeping us online, and Helen, who's going to talk to us a little bit later on. Okay, Stephen is here to talk to us about Pocket Park at St. Leonard's.
Yes, thanks for letting me join the meeting. Now, I live in St. Leonard's, and I was brought up there as well. And one of the things we enjoyed doing as kids was accessing the water. And as time's gone on, access to the water has got worse and worse. And with the development of the new walkway, it's going to be virtually impossible to get any access to the water. We've still got the boat club there, but everything else is going to have a fence right along and no crossing of the railway line and whatnot. So to give the kids and families and whatnot access, I'm proposing there's a lagoon just along the track from the boat club, which will be easily accessed from the new walkway, which we could put a small pocket park and some sand so people can get down and into the water, paddle around and whatnot. I've spoken to the regional council about it, and they indicated that the harbour is zoned as a recreational area, and they have given permission in other cases for McAndrew Bay, and I think a new one further around at Broad Bay, to do a similar sort of thing. What I'm proposing is much smaller than any of those. It's just a tiny wee area off the inlet, but he saw no problems with getting consent. Would need consent, but he didn't think that would be a problem. I spoke to Peter Magruder at the council. He was very supportive of the idea. I suggested that the community would be happy to be involved, and I don't see any significant cost to the council for this, or for the base of it anyway. You know, more things, and more play equipment and picnic tables may be added to it, but just to get the sand there and do a little bit of landscaping, I think would be relatively easy and cheap. I spoke to Doug Hall, who's going to get back to me on the practicalities of getting the sand there. I think there's possibly it's something that wants to be done sooner rather than later, so that we can get access from where the walkway is going to be without damaging anything. But he was going to get back to me on that. To get people down there, there's been queries raised about whether it's safe and the state highway and the railway line. But basically, you'd access it from the walkway, which can be safely accessed further along at the boat club. So there shouldn't be any issues with that. So that's the plan. Okay, questions? Anybody got any questions? Steve Walker, off you go.
Yeah, thanks, Steve, for bringing this to me. And I know you had presented it to me previously, and I had misunderstood where it was, to be honest. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I thought you might have. And so it's basically bang in front of St. Leonard's School, is that right? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's right. Okay. And have you spoken, I mean, I asked this question because the particular agency is quite risk averse. Have you spoken to Kiwi Rail? I haven't. Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to them about other things and got a poor reception. But I mean, to me, I'm not quite sure if I'm asking them a question of any sort, because it's not accessed in any way via the railway or anything to do with the railway. It's further away from the railway than the walkway is. So I wasn't thinking that really they would have much of a say in it. But certainly, I mean, I can talk to them. Some people, I won't go into that, but yeah, certainly I can talk to them. Okay, yeah. So in terms of bringing this to us, what specifically do you want
us to do as a board? And I guess supplementary question: who's going to drive this? Do you see that as being us or you?
It could be either. I mean, I'm more than happy to drive it. I mean, if someone said to me, "You've got permission to do this," I'd rig Doug up. I'd get some truckloads of sand. I'd get a few members of the community to do a wee bit of planting, and it would get done. So I think, but if it's better done through the board for any political reason or whatever, I mean, I'm coming to you because I think, I want to make sure that you guys are on board with it, but and for advice to how best to facilitate it actually happening.
Okay, so it's obviously not an agenda, but ideally from us, I presume you'd like some sort of indication of support. If of course you want to then go and get the various permissions from the various agencies to make sure it's a goer.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And just one, sorry, I'm hogging the question limelight here. So in terms of the sand, because of course sand moves, I mean, how can we guarantee that the sand that goes there remains there?
Well, that was a question the regional council asked because they tried a similar thing in Portobello and the sand disappeared very quickly. But in this case, we're actually in a very sheltered bay, and the sediment that is there is very fine sediment that has accumulated. It's a mud. So to me, there doesn't seem to be any currents that are going to be washing the sand away. And while I say it's sheltered, there's another lagoon further in that's got a lot more wildlife in it and is even more sheltered, and the water is a little bit murky. I think we're still getting enough water flow through it that it looks as though it should remain reasonably clean as well. So I think the sand both is unlikely to erode, but I don't think it will get very muddy or contaminated too quickly either. So it seems like a place that should work well.
Cool, thank you.
Anybody else? Yep, Duncan, go, and then I've got one. Yep.
Thanks very much, Stephen. That sounds great. I was just wondering if you've been in touch with the council officer that's working with the Broad Bay and McAndrew Bay communities on the similar projects. DCC officer.
I'm not sure who that is. I spoke to Peter McGruther, who I would have thought maybe was sort of overseeing some of it. But Steve, you might know who would be running those projects.
So I should be used to unmuting my computer by now. Yeah, but it does actually. I guess Duncan's question leads to another question from me. Wouldn't it be logical, of course, to speak to Jason Forbes, who's overseeing the whole Cycleway project? Because I asked that question because if this is possible, it would be far more logical to do it while we're currently building something else. So have you spoken to Jason at NZTA, who's driving the whole shared path project?
No.
If not, I can give you his details.
Yeah. I mean, this is the advice I'm looking for. Basically, I've been each party I've talked to, they've said to talk to at various, and this is my step from the regional council saying do talk to the community board. Yeah, I'll talk to Jason. I had a feeling from something previous that maybe the budget, or they don't, they had the feeling that putting more into their project would be something they wouldn't want. So I think I'd have to make it very clear that, we're not trying to inflict more cost on them. But I'm sure once he understood that, we could get him on board. I mean, it's things like this. And I think it was him that did a presentation talk about the walkway on the other side, or it was somebody else, but the key of their talk was adding small things into it, adding the seats, dealing with the boat clubs and all the rest of that was the things that made the Portobello side walkway so successful. So I'm sure that, he'd agree that, it's these stop-off places, it's the toilets, it's the playgrounds and the equipment that you add to the walkway that are going to make it a success. So, yeah, hopefully he'd be well on board with that.
I'll send that address. I'll send that contact to you during this meeting.
That'd be great.
Yes, I was actually going to say that I would do that, but that's fine. I don't mind where it comes from or how it gets there. I did go to look at the site with Stephen sometime around Christmas, and of course the timeline is doing it, Stephen, before the cycleway is, or rather the shared path is up and running. Yes.
I think any heavy gear that we want to get in there, we do want to make sure we're not damaging anything that they've just built. So I think it makes really good sense to get in there and make a start on it in conjunction with the walkway. Yeah.
Great. Well, I personally think it's a fantastic idea, and it looks doable, and it looks like a great thing to be doing, especially for all the families, children. Right. In St. Leonard's, and anybody that's coming along the the shared path. Jackie, did you want to say something, or are you just giving thumbs up? Thumbs up. Yep. Okay, great. All right. Well, Stephen, that's marvelous. We will be in touch.
Okay, that's great. Well, thanks very much for that and for your support. It's excellent.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Okay, doke. Moving on. We don't have any apologies. I would like to confirm that we confirm the agenda without any addition, unless there are some additions or alteration.
I'll second that if you want.
Thank you, Trevor. All those in favour, just put your hands up. Duncan, did you?
Oh, yeah, I had something I wanted to say. A few weeks ago, an email went out to the whole board asking for items that board members wanted to be put on the agenda. Christina asked for Wycliffe Terrace pedestrian crossing to be discussed. Ange asked for the Blueskin Road safety barriers to be considered.
Yes.
I asked for council update on the Port Chalmers pool season.
Yes,
and
that's
he
all.
also mentioned a couple of times that there would be historic plaques on the agenda, and none of them are on here.
So the first three are not on there because Janine's going to speak to them. I did bring it up at our meeting, and the plaques will be just an add-on in the chair's report, which we can then discuss, because that's how these things work. And there is movement for me to add things to my chair's report as it comes up. So yes, that's why they're not right in there in the agenda, Duncan.
I've got to call it information plaque because I don't know.
Oh, you did. Oh, so it's there. So the plaques is there in the board responsibilities list, which I didn't memorize because it's much longer than it used to be. All right, so are we happy to move on then? Yes, good, thank you. Moving on. Declaration of interests. Anybody got any changes to that or updates? Beautiful, thank you. Well, let's confirm that I'd like to move that we confirm the declaration of interests. And have I got a second? Thank you, Christina. Beautiful. And everybody's read their minutes, I'm assuming. So I would like to move that we confirm the public part of our minutes from our meeting on 17th of November. Can I have a second, please? Thank you, Steve. All those in favour, hands up, please. Jackie, you good with that? Yes, great. Thank you, everybody. Moving on to Wendy's report. Come on.
Sorry. Now, there's just a small update which won't have changed from the last meeting for the project fund. The other thing is I popped on the Aramoana playground update that members would have received by email before Christmas. I just thought it might be of interest to the community as well. looks like a really good playground and good thing to go forward. The other one we've got is the shared pathways now. We've got Helen Chapman, who is from our transport team, and she's going to speak to that. So she'll do that very shortly. And then we've also got the Keep Dunedin Beautiful. I believe that Duncan resigned from the Keep Dunedin Beautiful committee, and the board might like to give consideration to replacing him on the Keep Dunedin Beautiful. Christina, I believe, Christina Goldsmith has indicated that she's happy to join that committee as the board rep. And then there's just the usual roadworks schedule for members if they're interested, and any in the updates that currently consulting on, but there's nothing in the board's area at this stage. So are you happy for Helen to speak to the shared pathway?
Yes, please. Hi, Helen. Come in, Helen.
Sorry, just getting my camera and microphone going.
Beautiful.
So in October last year, Waka Kotahi, the New Zealand Transport Agency, gazetted a new set of markings that are like the markings on the road that you'd see, the sort of the white and yellow paint, but specially designed for shared paths. And the intention behind them is to provide reminders about courteous behaviour on the shared path, so they're to try and influence the behaviour of the people using it, to try and address some of those conflicts we have among different groups of users, people who might be cycling fast or walking or taking their dogs out or with small children. So there's a set of 6 markings that it's possible to use. So there's 2 different types of slow down ones. One's a activity zone slow and one's a more of a slow down. There's a hazard coming up a junction or a narrow point in the road. There's give space, which is about when you're passing someone, give them plenty of room. Keep dogs close. Move to one side if you've stopped to chat. So that's where there's a bench or something you might want to step off the path while you talk to someone and enjoy the ambience. And there's keep left. And so what we've been doing is we've gone round the shared path from St Leonard's into town, and then from the other side of the harbour from Andy Bay out, looking at what possible locations these are. And so we've done a map of some proposed locations, and we're looking at feedback for these. At this stage, we're just looking at the section of shared path that's built, but once we've kind of had them on the ground for a while and seen how they're working, then we'll look to roll them out across all the other shared paths, including the new section when it opens.
Great. Thank you, Helen. Anybody have any questions for Helen? Steve?
I'm going to break protocol. I don't have a question, but I do have comments as somebody who cycles the path every day. I just want to say congratulations, Helen. They have worked, particularly the bell ringing. I'm an avid bell ringer. I actually have 2 bells on my bike, but I've noticed an increase in bell ringing, and I've also noticed an increase in pedestrians who are being rung thanking people. So it's improved the behaviour in that sense. And the only slight issue I have is obviously some people in Dunedin have a little bit of a problem working out what left and right is, but there's nothing much we can do about that. But thank you. I think they're really valuable, and I look forward to further additions when the path is done.
So if I could just clarify, there's the decals that I think Steve's talking about that went down over the summer. They are a DCC run campaign, as opposed to the markings that we're looking at putting down, which are a permanent road marking. So they're giving similar messages, and we will continue to use the decals as part of campaigns to complement the more permanent markings.
Oh, great. So you will be able to then move them to different spots depending on where you're seeing the need for them with the decals.
The decals are movable, yes.
Yeah.
The markings, once they go down, they're relatively hard to remove from the surface. So we want to kind of, so that's why we're engaging with you about whether we've got proposed locations right before we get our contractors to mark them.
Yep, so we'll put that out to the networks and feedback to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Here's my
great.
conclusion as well.
Trevor has a question.
Not so much. It's not so much a question. It's more of a comment. I think it's a fantastic idea putting those markings on there. I know of people that, particularly older people, that won't use the shared path at the moment because they see this being too dangerous. So I think it's a fantastic idea, and hopefully it makes it a lot more safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen, and I will get your email so that we can then feedback directly to you.
So it's just helen.chapman@dcc.govt.nz.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming all the way from your house.
Thank you.
All righty. Okay, so moving on, now we need to, I'd like to move that we appoint Christina as our board representative to the Keep Dunedin Beautiful Committee. Have I got someone to second that? Thank you, Steve, and all those in favour, just hands up. That's everybody, including Ange. Yes, good, thank you. So that's that. Good on you, Christina. We'll put you in touch with Asham, and you can find out when the first meeting is, although you can probably just email Councillor Walker and he'll let you know.
Meetings on Tuesday.
Meetings on Tuesday. Thanks, Dave.
And
I will get staff to send you invites, Christina. I'll formally let them know that you're now the board's representative.
Thank you, Wendy.
beautiful. I would now like to move that we note the governance support officers report. Thank you very much, Wendy.
Well, are we still discussing it or not?
Can we, do you have something? Yeah, go on.
I'm sorry, I had my hand up.
Sorry, sorry, Trevor. I didn't see that because I was looking at the piece of paper. Yes.
I just want to talk about Dunedin City Council updates, and where the board members are reminded of advising council of potholes, vegetation, etc., etc., etc. The issue, I guess, I've got is, and I keep being on about this, is that if you have a look around the upper part of Ravenstown, particularly, there's vegetation overgrowth on just about every street. There's potholes, the roads breaking up on just about every street. The Wanaka Street footpath is breaking and got huge cracks and it's sagging in the centre. And I mean, if I was going to advise the council of all those things, I'd spend a couple of days just doing it. I'm wondering, what are staff doing? Why have we got to do their job for them? Why aren't they proactive? And why aren't they looking at these things and sorting it out themselves? That is my question.
Anybody? Well, I don't have an answer for that, Trevor.
So, Fran,
Thanks, Janine.
we should have light maintenance patrol people that are going around all the streets and the city boundaries, checking for those safety issues and calling them back in. So you're right, Trevor, you shouldn't have to do that. We have inspectors out there on the streets looking at those sorts of things.
Well, with all due respect, I do see the cars driving around the streets, but maybe they've got real thick sunglasses on or whatever, because going past at speed, I guess, is not really looking at what's going on. And I mean, I'd be prepared to spend time with you and show you what I'm talking about, because in the upper part of Ravenstown at the moment, it's an absolute shambles. And I mean, we've had the grass cutters around twice on Wanaka Street, and they've missed a huge part of what they normally do. And I'm just wondering what's going on with the contractors. So I'm prepared to spend the time, but I'm wondering what those staff are doing, because it's not getting sorted, and I can't understand why.
Eva, could I offer for Andrew Lord to meet up with you?
Andrew Lord, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, is he going to come here and have an on-site meeting or what?
Yeah, no, he would. He would.
Well, I'm more than happy to take Andrew around.
Okay, that'd be great. I'll jack that up.
That would be awesome.
Okay. There's also some issues in Port Chalmers that I started trying to get resolved today. Well, not today, actually, for the last few weeks. But I'll let you know, Janine, if I don't have any joy. Okay, so having done that, so all those in favour of noting Wendy's report. I didn't actually get a second for that, so if I could have a second just quickly. Thank you very much, Trevor, you'll do.
I'm happy with that.
Thank you, very good. Okie doke. Now, off to board updates. Let's get to that. Sorry, I'm just trying the page. There we go, got the page. Board updates. Right, Jackie and Christina, Port Noise Liaison Committee. Jackie, has it met?
I think she's ringing.
Oh, she's phoning. Yep, here we go. Beautiful.
Hi, Jackie. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, yeah. So, Port Noise Liaison Committee. The meeting is next Tuesday, the 10th of February. But meanwhile, the program has announced that there'll be no more regular visits from the membership after Mirth called it unsilent container ship, the Monty Rosa, filling the barrage of noise complaints from around the Otago Harbour. So that's good news.
Jackie, just quickly, can I just interrupt and get you to go to the other end of the room?
Yeah, okay. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's going to be replaced by the SFL Maui, which is fitted with a silencer. So that's good news. Shall I do my report from the Purakanui and Long Beach as well while I'm here?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the Purakanui Amenity Society have their AGM in June, so I've read through that. And there's just one thing that I would note from that I might follow up, which is that someone had noted that the Purakanui School, there's no sign on the road as you come down that road, which is often at speed. There's no sign that actually there is in fact a school there. So I believe some noted that speed might be an issue down there. It might be good looking into it. As well as that, planting continues on the new bits of the track that they've been adding to, and I'm following up with the DCC regarding sourcing some plants for Jude for that. The Purakanui Sunday was not held this year for the first time in decades due to the risk of COVID. That's it from Purakanui. From Long Beach, they had their AGM for the Long Beach Amenity Society last Sunday, the 30th of January. And Edna Wheeler is incredibly happy to report that for the first time in ages, they have elected a full committee. So she will be having help at long last. Lots of new residents have moved to Long Beach from far and abroad, like Queenstown, for example, and these new residents are full of new ideas. The Long Beach Hall has had lots of bookings through the holidays, and the housing over summer went very well. The rocks issue may be resurfacing. That's all I have to report on that.
Thank you, Jackie. Trevor, you're up next, Ravenstown Community Liaison Group.
Can I just first speak about what Jackie is saying regarding the rocks? Can I just talk about the rocks for a moment?
No, this is yeah, we just have to go back here and here we go. If you could start again, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk briefly about the rocks. When I was in at the chairs meeting, a couple of chairs meetings ago that I attended, I did speak to them about the rocks at the time, and just for Jackie's information, the key to those gates can be obtained from Parks and Recreation if people want to hold some sort of function on the park. And apparently they can be got at quite short notice. So I was quite pleased to hear that. So that may be an answer perhaps to some of the stuff that she's hearing. I see Jackie's nodding her head, so that's good. Ravenstown, we haven't had any meetings, but today I received an invitation to a meeting for the 22nd of February at 5:30. So COVID has been holding everything up, but they're getting back into it by the look of things, so that's good.
Right. That's Trevor.
Yep.
KDB, Steve, could you give us an update on that, please?
Sorry, I'm being thick again. Probably not actually. We haven't met for eons. So I think the last meeting was the one where Duncan resigned. So it was so long ago. But the meeting is on, and I've sent you an email, Christina. Forgive me, it's not Tuesday, it's Monday. So nothing to report until that meeting's been done, and I'm sure Christina will do a sterling job of that.
Beautiful. Thank you, Steve. My turn. It looks like we have gained about 30 odd new followers on the Facebook page, which I've been trying very hard to keep going, and not keep going, to just keep putting things up. Like, for example, we might have some West Harbour community, some of the West Harbour community actually watching this live stream right now. So I posted that this afternoon for them to go and look at if they felt that way inclined. Yeah, and so the posts are being well accessed. The last one I put up, as I said, was that I put up one lately about quite a few things, the waste minimisation grants rounds, and I'm assuming and hoping that anybody who sees these will then reshare them to their various pages. I know that Duncan and Jackie, you're both doing that, and Christina, I think, a bit too. So that's magic, because you know you can't be all over all of these things, and if we're all doing it, then we're all good. Elson Avenue beautification project is looking very beautiful down there. It is a little bit weedy, so there will of course be a weed-a-thon soon. I'll let you all know when that's going to be. We're expecting some mulch to come. There's been plums, cherries, not cherries, I wish. There's been plums, black currants, strawberries. Some of the locals are picking the fruit for themselves, which is marvelous, because that was the idea. And everything's just looking really healthy, so that's magic. Right, Aramoana Liaison. Ange, would you please phone us? And also, you might want to move away from your computer so that we don't get heinous feedback. So we'll be talking to you about the Aramoana and Vision, please.
Is it working?
Yep.
I can see. That's good. Not a lot to. Yeah, I haven't had anything from Aramoana, so don't have anything to report. I did put the playground information in the roster, so everybody knew. This is a real delay here. Right, just take that off. Oh, now I can't hear you.
That's right. We're not saying anything.
Okay, hang on. No, okay, I can hear you. Okay. Vision had a meeting recently, and we had a discussion with the seafood festival, who have set up an incorporated society, and we've made an agreement with them about ownership of the assets and money. So yeah, that's getting discussed.
Oh no! Oh, there's two of them out there.
I can hear them.
We can all hear them. Oh my God! Now there's three of them. Wendy's going to see if she can make them go away.
Stop feeding them.
Wildlife capital of New Zealand.
Oh, thank you very much, Ange. That's great. Under hardship of seagulls and having to phone in.
Okay.
And there's a baby out there as well, which of course is going, feed me, feed me, feed me, as all babies do.
Yeah.
All right, so let's we'll come back to the plaques as the last item here. So Christina, anything to give us with the education liaison umbrella?
Yeah, well, I've had some issues actually. I've rung and emailed Alki, I think I pronounce it, 3 times, 3 emails, 3 phone calls, and I've not had any response back at all. So I'm not sure what to do next, to be honest.
Email from who's that?
It's AUUKE.
Alkia.
Oh, Alkia.
Yeah, Alkia, yeah. And I've left 3 voicemails and I've left 3 emails with her and I've not had any response. So I'm not sure what to do next. I came by the call centre one of the times and got put through to her voicemail. So I'm hoping maybe someone knows her and she can give me a ring back.
Janine has something that, yep, she does and she can. So there we go.
It's done.
Thanks,
Yep,
Janine.
it's done. Beautiful.
That's my update. Thank you.
Okie doke. Trevor, policing matters.
Thank you so much for having me back. Well, I'm sure everyone shares the same frustration as me that the police station's closed 99.9% of the time. And I have been down there another number of times hoping to see the man, but as I say, it's seems to be closed most of the time. So I have put in a call to the central station to see if I can see what's happening, but that's a nightmare. So I'll persevere and hopefully have an update for the next board meeting.
Thanks, Trevor. Okay, so the plaques. So it would be good to get moving on that. They're exactly where they were before Jan died. I started going down the road to speaking to Jeanette Wikaira, and so nothing's come from that just yet, because I don't know. Wendy will let me know what's happening there. So I guess Duncan, it would probably be good for you and I to get together and have a chat about what we think, and then bring it back to the board and then flesh it out a bit more so that everybody's informed, and I'm not sitting here going blah 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 here right now. Yes, so we'll do that. So I'll email you or text you and we can have a meeting. Okay, great. So we'll get that started. Everybody, of course, is aware. Christina, you may not be aware. Before Jan died, she expressed the desire to have informational / historical plaques around the Port Chalmers area. Port Chalmers, Carries Bay, whatever, we, you know, how wide or how narrow we go is, I guess, what we're going to work out. I suggested also that we must have Māori representation as well. And so, yeah, so that's as far as it's gotten, and just information for people to read when they come to visit, and also, you know, so there's things about where they're going to go, how they're going to be, are they going to be in the sidewalk, are they going to be on plinths, all that. So yeah, we'll, Duncan and I will have a sesh and come back to the board with that next meeting. Okay, now I'd like to note that we note those board updates. Everybody's happy with that. We don't need to do any moving about that, do we?
Yeah.
Do we do? Oh, that's over here. Sorry, everybody. I'd like to move that we note the board updates. Can I have a second, please? Thank you. And all those in favour, just hands up's great. Thank you. Carried. Okay, so chairperson's report. I wonder when we want to talk to Janine about the stuff that I brought up at the agenda meeting. So maybe we'd like to do that. Janine, can we do that now, please?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, there she is. Good. So there were, yeah, I brought up at our agenda meeting the things that were asked about in the emails that I sent out. One was the Wycliffe Terrace crossing.
Yeah.
That was brought up by Christina. It is a particularly unsafe crossing. I've been paying attention as I've been walking and or driving, and people, they don't look, they just drive straight over it. It's the same as they drive straight over the tracks.
So we will have a look at that, Fran, but I'm just going to make a couple of caveats. I need the road safety team to have a look at that, and they're currently, there's only 2 of them out of 4. So I'll just have to program it. I can't promise you that I can build anything additional to what's in my forward work program until next financial year, because I'm completely committed.
Yep.
But we'll definitely look at it.
Okay, it's on the radar.
It's on the list for the team. Yeah.
Okay, great. Blueskin Road safety report.
Yeah. Did you get that from Lordy?
No, I did not.
Okay, I'll follow that up.
No, I haven't had anything from Andrew since Osborne Road.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so that's a follow-up as well, please. And the port pool report. In the meeting that we had, Steve did say that it was debated at a council meeting just before Christmas. Is that correct?
It was discussed as part of the 10-year plan deliberations. So, yeah, and the council decided not to move a motion to progress that. So that does not mean that, of course, with the current annual plan process coming up, that you don't think about asking that again, but perhaps being a bit more strategic about it. And when I say being more strategic about it, perhaps offering the council the option of looking at the possibility of extending it, but also putting that cost onto the cost of the passes. So just, you know, there doesn't seem to be a will from council, and I can't give you a reason as to why, other than financial constraints, which is probably a good reason, and that they don't want to extend it within the current budget. So having thought about it a bit more, that might be something that I can discuss with the chair. And I think was it you, Duncan, who brought that forward about a more strategic approach to trying to get this moving forward. So yeah.
Great, thank you very much. back to this here. Yep, so that's us there. So we'll have the Blueskin Road report from Andrew. As soon as I have that, I will forward it to you all. The NZTA update, that was amazing. I sent that to everybody. They're doing such a stellar job, and I must say I'm completely impressed with those people that are out there in all weathers. Most of the time with smiles on their faces. Most of the time, also some of them dance, which is hilarious. And they're all just, you know, I'm just amazed, and I'm so pleased that it is happening. I know I say this every time. So pleased that it's happening for us out this way and all along the harbour. Skip day was a bit of a washout. It was not very well attended at all for the skips or for the Lions. Christina, Jackie, and Ange a bit later on, we were all there, and basically we just stood around gossiping. And that was with the Lions and the people running the skips. So it was all a great idea, and it was, thank you very much, Omicron. That's why people didn't turn up. I mean, people didn't even come with their rubbish. So I think we do it again next year, and we'll just keep plugging away at it. I haven't talked to the Lions yet again, but they certainly didn't get $500 worth of electronic waste to use up the $500 that they got from a grant from the waste minimisation section of council. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I'll keep you all up to date with that. And on that note, you would have seen, anybody who's on Facebook would have seen the post, and I think I forwarded it to everybody as well, to do with the waste minimisation round that is coming up, which closes on March 25th. And that's a giant fund. So if any of you know that there's $58,000 to give away this time to likely projects. So if any of you have got anybody in your networks that you know has a plan, you know, has an idea for anything, then please show them that that page on council's website. Otago Access Radio is going marvelously, and I've just remembered I didn't talk about it in board updates because there were 3 things in a row and I forgot it, and nobody noticed except me just then. So Duncan and Ange, are you happy to join in with this again this year if we do it? And maybe Christina, you would be happy to do so as well? Great, okay, cool. And on that note, I received an invoice from Otago Access Radio yesterday afternoon, of course, after the agenda had gone out, and it's for 4 segments, which takes us up to election day. So I don't know, we can't move that we do any of that right now. We can't move.
Do that on the next agenda.
Yeah, we'll do that on the next agenda. And hopefully everybody's happy for that to continue next time. I posted that was another one of my posts the last couple of days, was the last chat that I had with Jeff, and that was about the basketball court at Ravenstown in Hudson Park. And I can't remember what else I talked about offhand. I talked about our various funding avenues once again, and reiterated about scholarships and the project fund, so that people, you know, can find out about that. And so if you all want to find that post and repost that for me, that'd be great, because then people will see that and go, oh yeah, that's right, you know, I can maybe get some money for a project, or, you know, my daughter is doing this big project this year, and yeah, it'd be great, $500 would really help her, or whatever. Trevor, you've got a question.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're aware that they just went ahead and did the basketball court anyway, albeit they moved it over to a corner as opposed to putting it into the middle of the field. But I did actually expect them to come back to the board before they did anything, and I thought that that was the agreement that we had. Obviously, I was wrong, but it may have been that because of financial reasons, they needed to get it done there and then. But I still would have expected them to at least come back to us and say, for this reason, we're putting it there. But there was no further communication whatsoever from council. They obviously spoke to some neighbours, didn't bother to speak to us again, and just went ahead and did it. So, so much for board participation.
So I hear you, Trevor, and I remember getting a phone call at a wake from you saying, what are you doing? Can you come to Ravenstown? And so the next day we basically put those wheels in motion. I did speak with Scott about that. And he admitted, of course, that they fully dropped that ball. Staff did what they did because of the playgrounds consultations that went out last year, which, you know, that's fair enough. But they then completely lost it in that they didn't talk to us, and they also didn't talk to the immediate neighbours, which is a very smart thing to do, talk to the immediate neighbours. And so that's not going to happen again. But this is also something I'm going to bring this up at the next Mayor and Chairs meeting, which is in 3 weeks-ish from now. And on that note, I will also email all of you to see if there's anything you'd like me to bring up at that. We don't need to talk about that right now. You can have a think about that, because it's a few weeks from now, and we can see what can go in that. So yes, I hear you, Trevor, and that didn't only happen here in the West Harbour. It happened everywhere.
Well, I do agree with what you're saying, but if you recall, when we spoke to staff about it, they said that they were going to, or my understanding is, and perhaps I interpreted it wrong, that before the court was laid down, they would get back to us. The first I knew about it was when people rang me and said they're doing it as we speak, and I just think that was pretty bad form, frankly. Albeit that it's certainly in a better spot than where it was going to be, but I'm pretty disappointed that they never got back to you or I on the matter, and I just think it's a pretty rotten thing to do.
And that's what I'm going to be bringing up at the meeting. I know it's a fait accompli, it's been done, and you know we can't stop it. And it's a good thing for anybody that plays basketball, for sure, absolutely. But then just getting those procedures for when something like this happens again, or hopefully something like this does not happen again. The next and last thing that I'd like to talk about is, and you will have all gotten, I've sent you an email, but also the Aurora Energy's putting an entry into the New Zealand Energy Excellence Awards, and they would like our support. So I'm hoping that everybody's had at least a glance through this. And because they did, we all had a really good time watching the YouTube videos of it, and those helicopters, and then the feedback from people about the whole thing. So, and the way they did it, and the way they involved everybody, and they so totally kept us completely up to date with whatever they were doing, which was great. So I'm happy for us to support their entry with I don't know what it was that Amy was after. Just an endorsement, I think, of some description. Support our application with a few words. Yeah, the grammar in this email leaves a lot to be desired, but hey, anyway. I'd like to write them a letter of support if everybody is amenable to that. Trevor, you put your hand up.
Well, I mean, a letter of support for doing their job.
more a letter of, you did it, yeah, you're right, supporting them for doing their job, but I think actually more support for, not support, for involving the community instead of just doing it, which is something that may have happened in the past, which is something that happens with power poles, for example. They just do them.
I'm more than happy to move the letter for a letter of support.
Thank you, Steve. And Duncan, you have something to say?
Yeah, the power companies have rightfully been getting a lot of bad press in recent years, but in this case, the work that they did and the community outreach that they did was sterling. And I think that I'm happy to second Steve's motion that we write them a letter of support for this specific project.
Yep, sure. So, yeah, just to speak just slightly again to what Trevor said, you know, it can be argued that this is a PR exercise, which of course it will have been, but good on them for actually doing that and paying attention to their mess ups and trying really hard to mitigate their behavior. So all those in favor of writing a letter of appreciation, we'll call it, we won't call it support, of appreciation for what they did with their project. Hands up. So that is Jackie, everybody's hands up. Great, right, passed unanimously. I'd also now like to note that we note my report. Have I got a second there? Thank you, Steve. All those in favor? Everybody's hands are up. Beautiful, thank you very much. Matters for consideration. No, Steve. Oh, Steve. Oh, so sorry, Councillor Walker.
Okay.
Oh,
fine.
Councillor Walker. Apologies.
I'm happy to say nothing. First off, I don't know if anybody else can see Ange on this, but it does look like you are above the Earth in the International Space Station and floating around 400 miles up, but I'm sure you're not. I'm sure you're just along the road. And before I give my report, it was remiss of me earlier, and I've given myself a whack on the backside for not taking the opportunity to thank Duncan for his service on the Keep Dunedin Beautiful committee for the West Harbour. So thank you, Duncan. Having sat around the table with you, your input was always extremely valuable, insightful and really helpful. So thank you for that service, and sorry for not mentioning it earlier.
Hey, thanks, Steve. An hour and a half driving to get to and from those meetings was a little bit too much for me.
I fully understand, but thank you, really valuable member. Hard shoes to fill, Christina. So obviously, what's dominating council was I guess the first from the 31st over 3 days was us doing the draft annual plan, which obviously you'll be able to submit on. That's the period when obviously all the departments give their annual budgets and we plow through them, and they put forward what they can and can't afford, and they chop and cut and add and try and come up with a number that will be ultimately the rates rise that will go out in the document for approval or otherwise via the submission process. And that obviously is from departments, the reserves and recreation, which is the old parks and recs, waste management, three waters, roading, footpath, etc. You should know them all by now. So that'll be up for discussion. Other items that came up, so those exceptions that the community may want to do, depending on the feedback that comes to us in April, May. There was something around the destination play spaces. I don't know how many of you read the paper. So that's a proposal to have a sort of to make it understandable, a Margaret Mahay type playground in Dunedin, and the options that we were presented with. We're doing one super playground in a new potential greenfield site, or upgrading 3 existing playgrounds to bring them up. So we decided that decision was too awkward for us to make. So we're actually going to put that out for discussion to the community, which I certainly supported that decision. I think supported it more that we've done that in the past. We've gone ahead with decisions without gauging the public appetite for or against it. So that'll be something that all of us will have the opportunity to feedback on. And certainly somebody like me who doesn't have kids and certainly doesn't hang around playgrounds. I'm glad that the decision will be left up to others. We also had a discussion on the potential for pay-as-you-throw curbside technology as part of the rejig of the whole waste pickup system. Basically, there was just that was rejected because the technology in other parts of the world is just really not up to spec at the moment. But it's something that may, as the technology moves on, it may come back to for discussion at some point down the line. And we decided to hold back, in fact, defer the decision on the funding options for the curbside collection service, primarily because there was too many unknowns. We were trying to make decisions without knowledge, for example, how much the service costs. So that's still out to tender at the moment. So when better information comes back around that, we'll be in a stronger position, obviously, as governors to make a decision. There's obviously, we discussed the proposed new DCC community housing policy for 2022, and that's basically setting the criteria by which people can access community housing. And the current policy is way out of date. So we landed on basically a policy that makes it easier for those most in need to jump to the top of the housing list. And I think the top criteria was people aged over 55 who have an urgent need for housing, but also have a need for physically accessible housing. And then it sort of scales down based on your need. And that will just rejig the current waiting list, basically puts a few more people higher up and drops a few people off it completely. And we also discussed the Dunedin Urban Cycleways programs, and that was in the paper, and that was around allocating funding for the completion of the Tunnels Trails Trust, the Tunnels Trails network that will connect us now to Mosgiel, and more excitingly, I think, connect us to the regional cycleways that are popping up all over the place from Central Otago. So I think that's really exciting. And it also fits in with some of our Shaping Futures Dunedin transport measures like the Park and Ride at Burnsides that will give far greater access for walkers and recreational users, mums and dads with kids to access Dunedin from another part of the city. And of course, if you know, I've cycled to Mosgiel, not using the tunnels, of course, so they don't exist. And it's bloody hilly actually, but this will actually now create a flat ride from Mosgiel. And an electric bike, you could probably do it in about 25 minutes, about the same as it would be from here to town. Here being Port Chalmers, of course. And we also agreed to just additional support for Task Force Green, which I think was long overdue. And you'll agree they do a fantastic job. And there was a range of other things as well, but that just gives you, I guess, an overview of some of the stuff we did. But as is always the case with the draft, that'll be coming in a document that you will all, if you disagree with anything, be able to have your say on and hit any of us up whenever you feel like it. And of course, I hope the board will make a submission on the things that are important to us. And also I forgot to mention the Sims building as well. So council voted actually to fulfill its obligation, I guess, which is complete the job. So they will sort out the land behind the Sims building. I think they budgeted probably $750,000 for that. And then the trust itself will then be able to go out and fundraise. So it'll be ultimately no cost beyond that to council. So I think that's a really good outcome, and it's a good example of council and a community group working together sensibly and coming to an outcome that is pleasing on both sides. And I'm particularly pleased that council is doing its part. So that's about it. And as ever, any questions, fire them at me now.
Trevor, did you have a question?
I just want to talk about community housing, Steve. When people go into community housing because of extreme need, at the other end, do people get re-examined on a regular basis to see if their circumstances have changed, or have they got a house for life?
Very, very pertinent question, Trevor, because I asked that very question during the debate, actually, and the response was no. Once you're in, you're in. But the assumption, I think my question was, if somebody dropped the lottery and with 100 million, would they then park their Lamborghini and their community housing parking space? And the answer to that was generally, from experience, it appears that if people drag themselves out of a financial predicament, that they tend then to move out of the community housing at some point. But in pure answer to your question, no, once you're in, you're in. And if you dropped 100 million in the lottery, you could keep your community house.
Wow.
But yeah.
Thanks.
Steve, I've got a question. Could you elaborate just a tiny bit on the curbside collection? What are the options going to change? What do you know?
No. The options were the ones that were surveyed as part of the 10-year plan. You'll probably remember in your document.
Yes, I totally remember. Yep.
That stays the same. The only things we discussed was the possibility. So a few people are quite keen, even though it's been proven throughout the world that it doesn't reduce waste, on pay as you throw, which basically you pay for the weight you throw, the times you throw away. There's just not the technology there yet to do it. Some countries do it, but it has something like a 20% fail rate. So I think it was sensible us to wait until there's better technology to do that. And the other side of it was we were deciding on how the funding options for what the public decided they want, which was the new 4 bins with the option of the green waste bin, how that would be paid, whether it was through targeted rates or something, or percentage based on the value of your house. But as I say, we all agreed we don't have enough information to be able to make a clear and fair decision on that yet. So it's something we will make a decision on, but probably at next year's annual plan.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have any questions of Steve? Duncan.
Okay, thanks for that, Steve. My question is about the Port Chalmers pool. Is there a way that the community board is able to get hold of the current operating costs for that pool and the anticipated increase in costs if it was kept open for another month?
Sorry, you were breaking up there, Duncan. Could you just?
Sorry. Can you hear me better now?
I can now, yeah.
Is there a way that the community board can get hold of the current operating costs for the Port Chalmers pool and the anticipated increase in costs if it stayed open for another month?
Yeah. That you can access that. That would have been part of the 10-year plan document. Actually, it'll be in the accounts. But if you mail me after this, I can get you the details. Because this wasn't part of my report. I think, as I said, it's probably better to think a bit more strategically. And I, whether that's, you could do it by surveying the current membership, and that'd be easy enough to do, and just ask the current membership, are they prepared to add whatever it is, $12 to their pass per year, but the prize would be a month's more. So I think it's better we get our ducks in a row about how we want to do it, because I think if you go to council saying we want to extend it, it's no cost to you, that's obviously a much better outcome. Yeah, but just mail me after this and I'll get those figures for you.
Will do, thanks.
Cool.
Thank you very much, Steve.
I'm happy to move that my report is noted.
I can second that.
Thank you.
All those in favour? Beautiful. Thank you very much, everybody. That was interesting. Any items for consideration for the next meeting? Nope. Beautiful. Duncan, yep.
Could you please send us another email before you put together the next agenda? Because that was actually quite a good move, I thought.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. That's going to happen every time. Don't you worry about that.
Great.
Yep. Good-o. And also I will be sending an email out asking if there's anything you'd like me to bring up with the mayor and chair. It's the same kind of thing, but much completely informal. All right, so I declare this meeting closed at 6:46 p.m. Thank you all.